Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy and governance. I am Shafiu Suleiman. Governor Ahmadu Fintiri of Adamawa State made headlines last week following the declaration of Vice Chancellor of Adamawa State University, Professor Kwale Tafwa Barauta, as running mate in the forthcoming 2023 governorship election. Fintiri, who explained that the decision was made with the consent of the current Deputy Governor, Crowther Seth, added that the University Don was selected based on her track record as a trusted and dependable person. However, observers have linked the nomination of the University Don as a last-minute political move to secure the support of Adamawa women following the emergence of Senator Aisha Ahmed Binani as the governorship candidate of the Opposition or Progressives Congress in the state. On the program today, we're joined by Ahmed Sajo, a public commentator and communication expert, to give us his perspective on the issue. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Right.
It's a pleasure.
Right. We are also joined by, that is all the way from Yola, Chief Fenifwa. He is a stakeholder in the politics of Adamawa State. He is also said to be close to the camp of a deputy governor who, a retired permanent secretary, who, joins us now virtually. Let's have, okay, I understand we'll get him soon, to join us properly for the conversation. Now, let's take a quick break, and after which this conversation will now commence. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us on Daily Politics, and today we're focusing our searchlight on Adamawa politics. And just like I said, we have Ahmed Sajo right here in the studio. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Right. For observers, who have been watching and following the politics of Adamawa State, the emergence of Aisha Binani, that is the governorship candidate of the APC, appeared to have changed the current dynamics in the state. First of all, her emergence is quite unprecedented, some would say, in the politics of especially a state in northern Nigeria. For the first time, having a female on the ballot as governorship candidate. I think she is the first in the history of the North generally.
No. Maman Taraba of Taraba State of Blessed Memory, Aisha,
yes,
Al-Hassan was the first.
Was on the ballot. That's right. Okay, it is still something to cheer up. Some would say, looking at the conservative nature of Adamawa State.
I don't know on what basis you're saying that. I think if there's any state in Nigeria that is set to produce a female governor, it should be Adamawa State.
Yeah, but the current statistics doesn't indicate that. I think you have only 5 female participating in governance.
I'm coming. Let's understand one thing. We have 3 senatorial districts in Adamawa State: the Northern Senatorial District, the Central Senatorial District, and the Southern Senatorial District. The Southern Senatorial District was the first to produce a female senator in the person of Grace Folashade Jackson Bent. After that, the Northern Senatorial District followed up by producing Binta Masi Garba as a senator. And then the Central now produced Aisha Tutairu Ahmed Binani. So all the 3 senatorial zones, you cannot get any other state in Nigeria that has had
it's not by coincidence.
It's not by coincidence.
It has been. It's part of the.
Then Adamawa State is the first state to produce the chairman of a major political party, a female, when Binta Garba became the first elected female chairman of APC at its inception. Right. So we have had this. Now, don't forget, Walefwa the wife to Femi Fua, was once the deputy speaker of the Adamawa State House of Assembly, and she even acted as speaker for some time. So we have had a history of Adamawa women. And don't forget, also, I'm still coming, that it's only from Adamawa you will have two sisters, Zainab Maina and Hajo Sani, become ministers of women affairs at different times in Nigeria here. So Adamawa women have always raised their head in trying to break the glass ceiling for quite some time. So it's not a strange phenomenon if Adamawa produces a governor. And head or tails, Adamawa State is set to again, put the women on a very high pedestal in the next election.
Okay, so let's get to the fact that you set the stage. How are they able to do this? Because the recent, governorship primaries that produced Aisha Binani, for instance, what was quite interesting, looking at how she was able to beat at least 4 or 5 male contenders, including a former governor, including a former EFCC boss.
Yes.
And so it was quite surprising how she was.
No, it's not surprising. She has a trajectory. If it's not a happenstance, it did not happen just out of the blues. When she made her first attempt to go into politics, she went for the House of Representatives. Yola North, Yola South, Gire, the most cosmopolitan of all the local governments in Adamawa State. Yola North and Yola South are the seat of the state capital and the Lamid of Adamawa, the premier traditional ruler, while Gire is where the university is situated. So these are highly cosmopolitan areas and things, and we have had, at that time, some hired Islamic clerics did all they could do to say a woman cannot lead. But she won. When she contested for the Senate last election, there was nothing again that was not done to stop her. But I tell you that as popular as President Muhammadu Buhari is in the politics of this country, Binani's votes were higher than Buhari in all the polling units. So she won the Senate convincingly.
Landslide, yes.
You understand? So she has had this history. But what gives her an advantage over every other person is that she has come out, as one of the most generous and compassionate politicians Adama has ever produced. That you cannot take away from her. In 2014, Boko Haram overran 7 local governments in Adamawa State. And then we had a deluge of internally displaced persons IDPs, in Yola. She and her husband took care of so many of those IDPs. And when the military recovered some of the areas, particularly Mubi, which was the next biggest city and the commercial capital of Adamawa State, she stationed 2 buses in the motor park. Anybody going back to Yola will enter the buses for free. Then there will be a 10 kg bag of rice and 1,000 naira for you to return with. She did this in 2014. Little did people know this. So this is not something she has done. When she wants to do empowerment as a legislature, she doesn't do it to 1,000 people, 2,000 people. The minimum is like 10,000 people. And she has made it a point that there's what Hausa people say, Rijaya Bayer Gugaya Hana. It doesn't happen.
She makes sure that it gets to the people.
She sits down there and hands over the things to you herself. Sometimes she stays till late at night, handing over these things to people to make sure that intermediaries do not. So people connected with her.
But there are also concerns around that, the generosity you're talking about, because some say, because of her position, I understand she's the chairman, Millennium Development goes, a committee on Millennium Development goes in the Senate, for instance, and then again, some of the things, some of those things she shared to the people. Also, there are allegations along that line. That,
was she chairman Millennium Development Goals in 20? I mean, when she was House of Reps, was she chairman Millennium Goals when she had no position? She had done this before.
But some say some of these things are federal government
there are people who have collected these federal government things, locked them up, and deny people until people broke warehouses and took them forcefully.
So she was able to share.
So whatever you say, you know, you cannot take away the fact that she was able to, at least, even if it is from federal government, but she distributed it. Yeah. What of the people that hoarded it? So and not only in Adamawa, all over Nigeria, you saw it when young people were breaking into warehouses and picking things that were meant to be shared.
So she understands very well, you know, perhaps this politics of stomach infrastructure, if I understand. And perhaps those she defeated were also not, in good books of the people of Adamawa State in terms of their ability to reach out. Is that?
No. I think what I want you to look at is that during times of hardship, any little display of compassion is amplified. We are in period of hardship. We can't deny that. No matter how we want to defend where we are today, there is a lot of hardship, occasioned mostly by factors that are even beyond the shores of Nigeria. You cannot deny those things have happened. You cannot deny, for example, that there was a COVID-19. And in 2020, Binani distributed more palliative than the government.
Okay.
And some from personal resources. You know, you cannot deny that these things happen. So people look forward to compassion. And then her empowerment programs were sometimes targeted at, no, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but the question, remember, I'm talking about, you know, how was she able to, is it to say that those who have contested along with her, the likes of former Governor Bindo, Bindo, and of course, Nuri Badu and others are not, you know, close, or are not in tune with the realities facing the people, or they're not that, generous to support the people at that, in this trying time.
To be very honest with you, each one of them has done the best they could do. But on a scale of generosity, you know, there are many scales when you're analyzing a politician. On a scale of name recognition, you give it to Bindo, because as a former governor, there's no community in the state that he cannot relate with. So he had the highest point in terms of name recognition. In terms of media exposure, especially nationally, you cannot compete with Nuhu Badu. You understand?
That's the office.
Exactly. In terms of even, you know, having an experience of contesting for a position previously, you cannot compare with Namdas, who was a deputy governorship candidate, who was press secretary to a governor and deputy governorship candidate and the House of Reps. They all had their advantages. But I tell you what made the difference.
Okay.
Two things made the difference. One, her apparent generosity. But secondly, for the first time in the history of the politics of any state, you know, women rallied round.
Yeah, talking about rallying point, I understand there is also a group, is it an association of the Adamawa women in politics or so, that cut across, you know, religious and ethnic divides. And this is an association that's said to be influential, you know, and galvanize a lot of support across grassroots for women in particular. What role has that played, you know, in terms of...
Well, you must give it to the group. Their leader is one Comfort Ibrahim, very articulate and she was able to bring even the MPI, the National NDI, National Democratic Institute, to Adamawa to talk to women, and they did a lot to mobilize women. And I understand that at the initial stage, when they contacted some individuals within the political field, especially in some of the other parties, they were seen as not quite formidable because, of course, people did not have sufficient information about their activities. But when they contacted people like Binani and things, she embraced them, and they worked together. And not worked together in the sense of, watering down their neutrality, but in the understanding that, yes, women all over should come together and promote their own. And that played quite a role. And another thing that played a role is that group was the one that petitioned the National Secretariat of APC and insisted that there should be the Constitution should be obeyed to the letter. That
in terms of the conduction
every out of the 5 delegates, 2 must be women, and at the national level, out of the 3, one must be a woman.
So they took up advantage of that those ground rules.
They petitioned and insisted that women were given their due during the nomination, the delegate selection processes for the nomination of the governor. And when these women came, they came in large numbers because, they constituted like maybe 40%.
Substantial percentage.
5 per local government, and the 2 must be women. So 40% of the entire delegates were women. And I understand that when Binani stood up to speak, there were just ululations, they confused the whole thing, and it could have created some bandwagon effect even among some of the men.
But again, looking at one thing also stands out. It's quite amazing to see women, coming under
one
umbrella, in spite of their differences in religion, in terms of their ethnic backgrounds and what have you. I think it is quite exemplary. Why is it possible, looking at the complex nature of the Adamawa state?
No, I think that credit should be given to women like Grace Bent. Grace Bent, for example, is an Adamawa, bona fide Adamawa woman by marriage who integrated so well that her Yoruba origin is not even
an issue
for us in Adamawa. And she did a lot to mobilize women, and when she was a senator, she actually performed excellently. And then when it was Binta's turn, Binta as chairman of APC, a woman, also did quite tremendously well in mobilizing women to say, look, I am one of you. You need to support me. And don't forget, it was while she was chairman that APC won the governorship in the state.
So if I understand you, their performances over the years, their credibility and their capacity to deliver also contributed.
So when Senator Binani came in, and she also was performing excellently well, the consciousness of the women to say, look, we can always deliver. And don't forget also that Binta was a member of House of Reps, elected from Adamawa. Talatu Yohana was a House of Reps, elected from Adamawa. Aisha Binani was a House of Reps member, elected from Adamawa. So we have had this history of electing women, and I must tell you that the women have not, to a large extent, disappointed us. So we are quite comfortable with the fact that the women have delivered and are capable of delivering.
Yeah. Okay, it appears the current government or governor of the state is also keen into this, because it is, does it come to you as a surprise that he's dropping his deputy, as we move towards 2023 and adopting a female running mate? Was it actually a response to the emergence?
Obviously, it's very obvious. The thing is, women, you need to see the way the women, particularly some of the women groups in some of the religious groupings, the women religious women's groups, how they were responding to this. Apart from the women in politics, women began to, the consciousness was very high. And so when he dropped his deputy and picked my younger sister, Professor Kaleto Pua Farauta, who incidentally was a commissioner under Governor Bindo, Commissioner for Education, and we sat on the cabinet together. So I understand, you know, we understand her capacity very well. And when she went to the university, she also had displayed quite some tremendous capacity. So when he picked Khaled Tapua Farauta as his running mate, we were not surprised. First, there is a revolution by women, which he had to respond to. And there is also a need for him to look for a woman with capacity. Because one of the things the women are talking about is the level of capacity displayed by Senator Binani. And you cannot...
you have to look for someone that can match such record.
In terms of capacity. But in terms of generosity, it will be a bit hard.
You emphasize so much on this generosity.
Because
does Adamawa State also fall under this category of states that see, you know, politicians who are ready to open their arms, you know, as...
No, I would tell you that I have had the privilege of conducting poverty survey of Adamawa State when I was in a position to do so. And I tell you that on average, the poverty levels in Adamawa State is one of the worst in Nigeria.
Yeah, I've seen in terms of human capacity, the state is number 25 or so in the index.
In terms of human development index, we are 24 thereabouts. But in terms of real absolute poverty, you know, it's about 74%. It's terrible.
But isn't that a contradiction now? Looking at the fact that Adamawa State has, you know, produced a number of personalities who are, you know, well-to-do, so to speak, including producing a vice president of this country. What happened? You know,
that's a question for them. What happened? Well, not me. Me, I'm only telling you that the reality is that there's a huge quantum of poverty in the state. And then, you know, with that level of poverty, you could see there are a lot of deprivations, and every little palliative goes a long way to a hungry man. To those of us that are here, a bag of rice may mean very little. But although by international definition, we are poor, me and you.
Of course.
Do you know? But we have given, we've been given a name that is different from the ordinary poor person. We are called respectable poor.
I'm hearing this for the first time. Anyway.
I'm telling you, in international parlance, we are respectable poor. We are poor.
So what differentiates you with the poor people?
Because you can wear clean dress like we're wearing. You clean them, you iron them. If you are lucky enough, you may even have a car to drive. But when I calculate your income and I determine your disposable income at the end of your expenditure, I discover that you are living hand to mouth, and that is poverty. You understand?
Yeah. So it plays a very key role.
That poverty, that assistance, that support worked magic, and is still working magic.
Right.
But then again, Senator Aishatu Binani has another advantage that she has. And
even though we're not here to sell
no, I'm saying
to market her candidacy.
No. But she had one other advantage that helped her in emerging. And she's not the only one within the context that had that. Bindo had it also. To a large extent, Namdas had it. There's this connect with the people.
With the grassroots.
With the people. No, that's connect. A politician that visits the sick in hospital, that goes to condole a bereaved family.
They are visible.
It's not about visibility now. It's about care and concern, affection. And you know, that plays a huge role, you know. When Bindo was governor, he did a lot of it too. And even now he does it. Namdas does it too. That is why a lot of them were able to contest for the governorship and make some inroads. Nuhu is a little bit far away from people because his base is mostly national. But when he goes home, he also goes to connect. Because in Adamawa, we're a rural community. If you do not connect with the people will not remember you. It's not all the times give. Sometimes you have to connect. You have to share my feelings so that I can see you as
one who is concerned about
her life, and she does it very well.
Right. Okay. Still, finding it difficult to comprehend why this 5 able-bodied, very prominent personalities will lose, to a woman. Was it they making by themselves? Because looking at the number, you talked about women, how they were able to solidify and then forge a common front, and then perhaps you have the men splitting their votes into 5 places.
That's one. And 2, everybody has its own strategy. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to do something, he creates a condition necessary. And I must say that one of the conditions necessary for this thing to happen the way it happened is the new Electoral Act. Everybody was planning, plotting, and campaigning on the basis of the old order, where the party structure plays a key role. All the members of the working committee in the state, all the chairmen and secretaries, all the ward were all part of it. All former this, former that were part of the delegates.
They're called the non-statutory, right?
They call them statutory. They are the statutory delegates. The statutory delegates. All of this, I am sure most of the other contestants had concentrated a lot more on capturing this large base, because that large base was higher than the elected delegates.
That's right.
Then all of a sudden it became the responsibility of only the elected delegates.
And it worked
just because of one clause that delegates are defined as people who are elected for the singular purpose of a congress or a convention. So they said, okay, the president, the governors, and the rest were not elected for convention. The party leaders were not elected for a convention. So they were all cut off. So only the people that were elected. So that was also an act of God. Because if you look at it, 109 senators, 360 House of Reps, excluded themselves in a process they were supposed to be part of.
Unfortunately.
And without knowing.
The last minute they were trying to remedy it.
It didn't work out. Because like I said, again, that's an act of God. We have our own plans. God has his own plans. Annasu yudabbiru, Allahu yukaddiru.
That's right.
So that's what happened. We did our own, but plans, Allah did his own.
Yes,
and
his own planner.
His own is the ultimate plan. It prevailed. So this may be what would have happened.
So a lot of factors, if I understand.
So these people were they were having a chunk of those party executives at the ward level, at the local government level. They were comfortable with the numbers. They didn't even bother about
perhaps
this.
She perhaps understand or rather expand her frontiers and then was reaching out to the
I told you now,
delegates.
look at the Adamawa women in politics just simply said, look, you must obey the constitution. Give us the numbers for the women.
They must have done also their calculations and realized that by the time these 5 men split their votes and we put our own together,
so this may be what
it also shows political maturity or political, experience now. Exposure.
It's just an understanding of situations. Right. When situations change, you change your calculations immediately.
That's right.
The moment it became fait accompli that the statutory delegates and the party executives were not going to participate, all plans now resided with
the new order.
The new order.
And now that's how it also gave them the victory.
Gave her the advantage.
That's right. Okay, we'll take a break. In case you're just joining us, we're looking at Adamawa politics and, of course, the emergence, if you like, or the revolution that is being spearheaded by women ahead of 2023 election. Now we have a woman, who is a candidate of one of the major political parties, the APC, and then a woman also as a running mate to the incumbent governor of the state, who is also of the PDP. Head or tail, as Ahmed Sajja said, women will have to play a prominent role. We'll take a break here. When we return, the conversation will continue. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us on Daily Politics. And today, our focus is on Adamawa politics. We're looking at the emergence, if you like, of women, or the wonders women are doing in the Adamawa politics, and of course how they are possibly driving a revolution or a change in the political dynamics of the state. And we have in the studio Ahmed Sajo, an APC chieftain and also a communication expert, a former commissioner of information and strategy in Adamawa State. Before the break, we're looking at how the women were able to, come up with these surprises, if you like, or consolidate their earlier winning formula. Because just like you said, it is not today. They've been on this trajectory, winning elections, especially at the National Assembly, Senate in particular, and so on. Now, let me get the understanding, or rather your perspective on the response of the current administration. Some would say the present governor or the incumbent governor is a bit jittery, perhaps always jittery, with the emergence of Binani, and of course this political trajectory that is being driven by women. But is it enough, that he now, nominated, or rather pick a female running mate? Would this save the situation? Or are we likely going to see an APC staging a comeback?
I think there is no argument as to whether the selection of my dear sister, Professor Kaleto Farauta, as the running mate had to do with the groundswell of support that women have shown they are capable of providing within the political space. That one, there is no argument about it. Anybody who is trying to say to the contrary is actually denying a reality. But I think what may play a role in the current system is that, the feeling down in Adamawa, which probably one can advise my brother, the current governor, to look at very seriously, is that the feeling amongst the people is that he has deficit in humility.
Okay.
And like I told you, we've reached a point where the people are looking for somebody that is human. He has a lot of deficit in humility.
But on the other hand, I understand he's also one who understands politics, and he reaches out to all these, camps, if you like, over political...
Even if he does that, I tell you, he has a deficit in humility. If you go to Adamawa on the streets, you ask, they will tell you this. And that deficit in humility is what played out even during the nomination process in PDP, where there was this feeling that he was so over-imposing on the entire process, to the extent that I noticed very recently that those that lost, rather than accept that they lost, were mobilizing to fight back and things like that.
So there's also crack within the PDP.
There is a huge crack, and that crack, was created by, like I said,
lack of
the
ability to reach out, to accommodate.
To accommodate.
Okay.
And so that is a very serious issue that is going to define the elections.
Yeah, but then looking at the performance of the governor, some would say you have to give it to him. He has done a lot in terms of infrastructure, built a number of primary healthcare centers, road construction, paid, school, WAEC, and all of that. So in terms of performance, perhaps he must have won the heart, if you like, or won the heart of the people of Adamawa.
I don't know. I am not a PDP person, but I know for sure that a lot of the things I read in the media as a performance do not tally with the realities on ground. But I'm a communicator. I understand that if you are in government, you have people, you have specifically assigned the responsibility of selling your programs and a lot of times, you know, in trying to market government, we add a lot of salt and pepper and to make it, and even some Maggi and Ajinomoto. So I agree that.
I understand your position. It is neither here nor there. But
no, it's here. I'm telling you that a lot of the things, there's a difference between performance and propaganda. And a lot of things we hear about politicians, not just in Adamawa, but about politicians across board.
Okay.
And in any case, if performance alone were enough, Bindo did perform wonderfully.
But we also understand what led to the crack also in the APC and how it lost out as a result of that.
So that means that performance alone is not an index to determine, assuming there is a performance.
Okay. So I understand we can reach out now to Chief Feni Fua, who is a stakeholder in Adamawa politics, to get his perspective. I'm sure he's being also, yes, Mr. Chief Feni Fua, if you're there, thank you for joining us on the platform.
Yes, I'm there. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to.
Okay.
Are you hearing me?
Part of that, but I understand.
Are you hearing me?
I hope we get it right, you know, in the process. But I can hear you. Okay, let's go straight into this.
Yes.
Yes. We're actually looking at the change in dynamics of politics in Adamawa State, especially with women now coming to the center stage, looking at the emergence of Aisha Binani, and of course, the selection of Professor Kaleta Parauta, you know, as running mate to the current governor. What do you make up with what the women are doing in Adamawa State, and how do you think this will change the current trajectory in politics of Adamawa State?
Let's look at these issues from two perspectives. I think there's a general perception that the women are with Binani. To another extent, yes. But remember, it was a delegate election. It wasn't a general election. Answer very well. Especially those who are Muslims. What they will do. So if you have 4 wives, 10 children, you have only, it may be a different dynamic altogether. The second aspect also you have to look at is the politics. Very critical stakeholders, prominent leaders, have they performed what?
Oh. Oh, we're having issues with the audio. Okay. Okay, Chief, I understand we perhaps, you know, because of the communication challenge we are having there, especially with the audio, we will allow the technical team now to work on that while we continue the conversation here. We'll get back to you as soon as the situation is rectified. But then we've had his perspective, you know, either, you know, he talked about something, even though it was breaking actually, but some say religion and ethnic I mean, politics is also very prominent in Adamawa State. He was trying to bring that, I think, to bear on this discussion. Is it, how prominent is this configuration or, you know, dynamic or factors that there is?
No, elite manipulation of our natural fault lines of religion, religion and ethnicity is everywhere. It's, in fact, it's now a norm in the Nigerian. But I was actually looking forward to getting the perspectives of my brother, Chief Feni Fua, because his wife contested the election, you know, more than once, and she won. She was a member of House of Assembly. She became a deputy speaker, and then she went back and she first contested as a councillor. She became a member of the House of Assembly, came to the House, returned back, and they contested as the chairman of local government and won. So for him, you know, he has a first-hand experience of women participating in politics and winning.
There's a question around whether they are stakeholders in the politics.
They are stakeholders. You see, the truth about it is that the stakeholder control over the electoral process is not as prominent as people want us to believe. If you check the footages of past elections within your system here, you will discover that more women come out to vote than men. That makes them the most critical stakeholder group. They may not be stakeholders as individuals.
Perhaps he's talking about the active participation in governance, especially in Adamawa State.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I'm talking about women as a stakeholder group. But then put that aside. We're talking about religion and ethnicity.
Yes, playing a role, perhaps. Of course,
naturally, you know, Adamawa is bipolar in both. We have a very strong Muslim community. We have a very strong Christian community.
Some people put it at 50-50 thereabout. I don't know how true is that.
But the interesting fact is that Muslims have won elections where Christians are in the majority, and Christians have won elections where Muslims are in the majority.
Yeah. We just talk about the emergence of Benani,
so that is one.
For instance.
That is one.
Against all this odds.
All this, then that's one at the seat of the Lamido. Then the second one is that when people talk about ethnicity in Adamawa, within the context of the state, you know, we have at micro level, we also have ethnicity. And again, I will use his wife as an example. She is, strictly speaking, a minority by ethnic configuration within the local government where she won elections twice or three times. So it doesn't really, it doesn't add up. But when you talk about ethnicity in Adamawa within the context of the state, it is always Fulani versus other ethnic groups. It's been like that for quite some time. But there are times when the concepts are not ethnic, but they are generic.
Yeah. Again, looking at also religious.
So they look at everybody who is a Muslim, just like they do in Nigeria.
Looking at even the religious factor, I understand that, you know, an average home in Adamawa, I mean, especially areas around Sheleng and other parts of, you know, you find out that in a house, in a family, you can find Muslims and Christians, you know, and coexisting and cohabiting
together.
In
my family, there are Muslims and Christians. We are coexisting. So in my family, I'm not talking about, okay, my local government, for example, my local government is almost 90% Muslim. Our candidate for House of Assembly presently is a Christian.
Religion, perhaps
religion and the Southern Senatorial District, for example, is predominantly Christian. But the current candidate for Senate is a Muslim. And Senator Barata, a Muslim, had won election in that senatorial district. The Northern Senatorial District has more Muslims than Christians. But the current senator, Cliff Abo, is a Christian. So religion, yes, plays some parts. But when you put the Adamawa Central, the seat of the Lamido, where Yola town is, had produced a senator that was a Christian.
Okay, I understand.
And Raus Sawa was once a senator there. So I think it doesn't add up. So it's not cut and dry. Let's put it that way.
Okay, let's get Chief Feni Fua to give us more perspective now. Perhaps he's trying to explain something. Chief, if you are back, okay, you were making a point earlier, but then after we lost touch with you, Ms. Ahmed Sajo here is talking about the fact that religion does not play such a role as we think. Let me get your perspective.
Well, I do agree with him, but there's an exception to the rule. Okay. That's when the religion is not very pronounced. Okay. I agree. There was a time in 2014 where all the 3 senators were Muslims. And now we have 2 senators that are Christians. So that is because of so many things that are into play. Religion and ethnicity prominent is so aggressive these days. But having said that, as things will reason and look at people based on merit. But those who look at things based on merit are a negligible fraction. Agency, people are not talking about poverty in the land. People are talking about Muslim ticket. That's taken, a central. I'll be very frank with you.
Chief, talking about Muslim ticket, you're talking about the center now. But I understand in the state now, it is balanced. There is a balanced ticket for both the APC and the PDP. Benani, understand, okay. 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 But yeah. But how are you looking at, the sudden decision by the current governor to also drop his deputy and pick a woman as his running mate? Do you think that will change, or rather that will stop the APC from, staging a comeback? Okay.
No matter his performance, there are people who are very, very worried that they are going to carry along because they have invested so much in the government and they have been kept aside. So if you talk about this issue of bringing a woman, it will not carry much weight. There are people who are very, very, very worried about the things that are happening in PDP. The PDP group is rejected. So the APC is likely going to read from the rejected group of PDP. So the issue of a woman, coming into play to gather more votes, I don't think will make a lot of difference. It wouldn't. It will just be negligible.
Okay. Okay, by getting your last line now, you talked about the fragmentations, or rather the disenchantment within the PDP. The APC too had its own issue, and that's what led to it becoming now the opposition party in the state because of the inter-party issues. Has this been resolved? And are they, is the APC now speaking? Going into the election with a common front? Okay.
They are almost in the verge of dismissing the senator, the women's central district. The other people in the party, especially from the other areas, are not being carried, especially presently. The governorship candidate is to vote with rebuttal about the successive election. So the APC is not at is one family now.
Okay.
Highly divided.
Okay. Right.
We have about 6 months or so. There's possibility of making the election.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chief. We have to let you go. We really appreciate your perspectives on the platform. We hope you could have done more because of but then challenges that we encountered. Okay, back in the studio, let me get your last line. Amasajo, talking about going to the election with a fragmented house.
No. I think, don't forget that even the period of campaigns go deep into September, October. between now and that time, everything would be sorted out within the APC. The PDP too, I understand they're doing the best they can to bring the stakeholders together. Like I said, when I said deficit of humility, it answers every question, you know. When you are unable to humble yourself to go to stakeholders and bring them on board and move with them, it has nothing to do with, it's just, you know, deficit of humility. Yes, exactly.
Personality
So
issue.
I believe that some of these issues will be resolved. But what I know is that there's going to be a robust and very strong campaigns in Adamawa State, and there's going to be a lot of mobilization, and Adamawa women are going to play a prominent role in determining who rules Adamawa the next dispensation.
Okay, thank you very much, Ahmed Sajo, for giving us your perspective on the Adamawa politics. We also thank Chief Fenifwa for his inputs on the program. On your behalf and the technical crew, this is where we come to the end of today's Daily Politics. Thank you very much for investing your time with us. I'm Shafiu Suleiman.